This isn't going to be a video about regretting eating out, buying new clothes, university debt. I think we've all heard these things time and time again, and me making a video about these things would be of absolutely no value to you. Also, I don't regret doing any of that stuff, and trust me, I've done a lot of it in my 20s because honestly, it made me really happy at the time. And when it comes to overspending, I reckon you're probably better off doing it earlier on in your life anyway. Your 20s are really a wild time, yo. You go from not really knowing what money is about to then having a fair amount of it, and it's inevitable that you're going to do some stupid shit along the way because that's just the process of learning and figuring something new out. And I think it's important to go through those mistakes firsthand so then you know better for next time. However, in this video, I'm going to share 5 mistakes that I made in the past 9 years that I really wish I didn't. And hopefully you can take away at least one thing from this video that you can implement in your life to help you become more financially savvy sooner. Cause you know, I love to see my people win. Okay, let's go. So the first one is not being curious about money. Okay, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and not just from a money perspective, but also other aspects of life too. So up until secondary school, I was a star child. I was dancing, doing every single extracurricular activity. I was that kid. And then as soon as I hit secondary school, high school, in my teenage years, I did everything I possibly could to fit in. And honestly, I feel like I dimmed my light during those years. I stopped being curious and really applying myself to the things that I was learning. I cared too much about boys, being cool, basically all the wrong things. And I think honestly this really continued up until I was about 24 or 25. Looking at what I've learned just in the past few years about things like having assets, investing, cryptocurrency, I really wish I was curious enough about these things sooner. Can you imagine if I had learned about these things 5 years ago? I reckon there would be so much more money in my bank account. I mean, just look at this graph of Ethereum's price. Also, YouTube tells me that the majority of you that watch my video are female, and therefore this is even more important. We need to be part of these conversations rather than just on the sidelines. Things like finance and tech have always been dominated by our lovely male friends, and it's up to us to make that a bit more equal. If you're in your early 20s, my plea to you is to start thinking and reading up about these things, even if it's just 30 minutes a week, just do it. As much as I'd prefer not to, the reality is we live in a capitalist society where these things are valued and you're almost left behind if you don't know them, so just start now. Your future self will thank you. And just remember, no one comes out the womb knowing all of this stuff, so it's okay to start from zero. Everyone does. In addition to things like stocks and investing, which you'll hear me talk about often, I also recommend you start reading up about Web3, so all things to do with blockchain and AI, cryptocurrencies, all of those things. I'm currently doing that now and I highly recommend it for you too. Okay, so the second thing I regret is not becoming financially literate. And this kind of ties into the first point I made. We all have some surface level understanding of what money is, right? And how it works and what it does. But what we don't really have as a society is knowing how to manage that money well. And something else we also tend to struggle with is financial resilience, which is the ability to withstand financial shocks. So for example, if you were to lose your job, a lot of us won't have a buffer to see us through a few months. You only have to look at the last 2 years to see that most of us aren't really in this position yet, and that's okay, it's never too late to learn. A good place to start learning about some of these things is actually your bank's website if you're in the UK. A lot of them will actually have mini tutorials on all of these things. And I mean, if your bank doesn't, or if you don't live in the UK, my friend, YouTube can be your bestie. It's as simple as searching for something like what is credit on YouTube and you'll find a whole range of videos. And I know it might be boring, but once you get into it, you actually find it can be quite interesting. It's only 30 minutes a week that you need to set aside, and if you do that every week for a year, by the end of the year, you're going to be a financial expert. As part of my 9 to 5 and my day job, I actually work in the banking sector, and I'm currently making learning content for exactly these topics. And yeah, shameless plug. Hopefully I'm allowed to share it with you on here once it goes live. Okay, so my third mistake is overdependency on a credit card. So this one isn't really about not being able to pay off debt or damaging my credit score. Luckily, I knew these things in advance, so I didn't really fall into that trap. The trap that I did fall into, however, and I think a lot more people are falling into now with the rise of services like buy now, pay later, is getting a 0% credit card. If you aren't aware of what a 0% credit card is, it's basically a credit card where when you buy stuff, you don't pay any interest on what you've bought for a set period of time. So these kinds of cards are great as they give you flexibility, and they're really good for buying one-off really large purchases. However, this whole 0% thing makes it very easy to overspend and spend above your means and spend money that you don't actually have, because all you'll pay each month is the minimum amount. I remember in my early 20s, I was always on some kind of 0% credit card, and I think for about 5 years. And on this credit card, I always had a balance of around £2,000 each month. It didn't get out of control to the point where I couldn't actually manage it. However, it made it very easy to spend money that I didn't have. And honestly, I didn't save a penny until I was about 26. The best way to use these 0% credit cards or buy now, pay later things is if you're buying a really big item and then pay it down over months, but don't use these things for day-to-day spending. It's a trap. So my fourth money regret in my 20s is buying things to impress others. Like I mentioned earlier on in this video, my priorities in my late teens and early 20s were all wrong. I definitely spent too much money on the people I was dating and friends I had at the time, which, if I look around now, are nowhere to be seen. And also just a bit of lifestyle creep, and this is when your lifestyle becomes more expensive as your income increases and what you used to consider as luxury then becomes the norm. Honestly, the extent to which I did this was absolutely ridiculous. I remember there was a guy once I had a really big crush on who mentioned in passing that he really liked it when girls wore white dresses. And so I remember one day when I knew I would run into him for 5 whole minutes, I skipped a uni lecture to go on an emergency shopping trip to find a white dress, which I did find for £50, to put it on and him not even notice it. And I mean, it doesn't stop there. I did so many cringy things for people I was dating and for friendships. I always spent more for these people than I did myself. And if I was to add it all up, I know it would be around like £6,000 or £7,000. And it's so funny to think about what your insecurities will make you do. I mean, absolutely buy things if they bring you joy, but remember just to have that mental check. And finally, my fifth money mistake that I regret making in my 20s is not starting a side hustle. So I'm at the end of my 20s, and take it from me, your 20s are where you're going to have the most energy in your working life that you will ever have. And I mean, it's never too late to start these things, but in your 20s, you're less likely to have responsibilities and other things going on and a lot more time on your hands, so you can take more risks and try out many different things. And it doesn't have to be a drag or something boring. Today you can make money from pretty much doing anything, so definitely try a few things out and see what works best for you. For me, I did try a few things here and there, but I never really committed to anything. I was working full-time in a retail job in just a clothing store and studying for my degree, but I definitely know I still had time to develop a side hustle if I wasn't just chasing boys and buying £50 dresses to impress people that never even took a second look at me. There's time, you just need to find it. The sooner you can get multiple streams of income going for you, the easier your life will be, and the sooner you can actually enjoy things that you want to rather than being stuck in a job that you hate just to get by. And if that's not motivation enough, I don't know what is. You know, contrary to popular belief, your 20s are actually a great time. Be a sponge, be curious, and take as many opportunities as you can to learn new things. And you know, don't deprive yourself of the fun stuff either. It's absolutely okay to make 1 or 2 mistakes. That's normal. And that's how we all learn. I just hope that some of you can take at least 1 or 2 things away from this video and apply it into your own life to maybe avoid some of the things that I did. Well, I hope that was useful. I'm in my final year of my 20s. I'm going to be 30 soon, and so I've been in a pretty reflective mood, as you can tell. I really enjoyed making this type of video, so maybe I'll do a few more of these because I've just learnt so much, and if I could go back in time and tell 21-year-old Vashi to avoid these things, I'm pretty sure she would have saved herself a lot of heartbreak and also a lot of money. In the meantime, I'm sending you all lots of love, good vibes and light from this gloomy London. And I just realised my earrings might be making a lot of noise, so if you hear a lot of this in the video, I'm so sorry. I am just trying to lean in more into my feminine energy, and I've been enjoying it a lot lately, so I hope the video is bearable to listen to. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Bye!